What was one of the most difficult moments for you when building Fincra?
I've not really reflected on that before now. What I realized was that the process of raising was so tedious.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually an interesting question how we've done it without floats. I don't think we've not really struggled for liquidity and moving money.
Do you ever feel betrayed when that happens?
I used to feel betrayed early on.
You said your wife has been extremely supportive to you in your business and one of the most supportive people in your life. If she was in this room right now, what would you tell her?
I'll tell her thank you and I love you very much for all the support.
What matters to you most in life and why? What's up, everybody? My name is Benjamin Fernandez. I'm the founder and CEO of Nala. I'm super excited today to be hosting one of my good friends, Wole from Fincra. Wole has built Fincra in the last several years to expand to 5 different markets across Africa, processing billions of dollars, and built a team from 0 all the way to 70 people today. Wole, I'm super excited to have you. Welcome to the studio. Karibu sana.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Wole, so home is Nigeria.
Yeah.
Which city in Nigeria is home for you?
Lagos. It has to be Lagos.
It has to be Lagos.
Yeah.
Why does it have to be Lagos?
Because, Lagos is where the life, that's where the life is.
Yeah, that's where the I thought it was Lekki and all these neighborhoods and so on in Lagos.
Yeah, I mean, I stay around Lekki in Lagos. But,
Yeah.
everywhere in Lagos, even everywhere in Lagos is.
He said that's what the life is.
Yeah, that's what life is.
But why are you in Nairobi then?
Nairobi is my second home.
Your second home in Africa.
Yeah,
Okay. Got it. Cool. Well, we're here right now in Nairobi, Kenya. And today I would love to jump into your journey. And so let's start, with the beginning. So how did you get into tech entrepreneurship? How did you get into fintech?
Okay. It was actually through my friend. I never really thought about going into tech or fintech. So early on after school, I started working with a bank with Stanbic. But I really hated it there. I loved the job, but I also sort of hated the job because I was doing the same thing every day, and most of my friends knew. So one morning, by 4 a.m., I got a text from my friend Bucci saying, the next opportunity is building out a platform for Africans to buy and sell crypto. We didn't have any indigenous crypto exchange in Nigeria at the time, and felt there was an opportunity to do it. And I was like, I'd like you to come on the journey. I saw the message and I replied in 5 minutes, I'm in. I quit my job a few days later and joined as a co-founder. So that's how I got into fintech.
Okay, so let's start right there. So in many people across the continent, you have a world where you have a lot of people who are very talented. I think there's a lot of amazing people who have really cool ideas and things like that. And I'm sure you have people coming up to you saying, look, I have this amazing idea, but I also have a family. I have kids. I have things I'm responsible for. Yes, I also work at a bank right now. I would love to build Fincra as well. But how do I take that step of faith or that leap into quitting my job, knowing that I have all these other responsibilities at home, and jumping to a startup where there's no guarantee of even income? What advice would you have for them?
To be honest, it's not very easy. So I know I made the decision very easily then, but I think what made it easy for me was the fact that I was still pretty young. Just about 2 years out of the university. I was really under no pressure. I didn't have so much responsibility. Although I had to, it wasn't really a pay cut because when we started Quidax, it was no salary for the first 9 months.
Wow.
So basically, just living on vibes and my savings till we started making revenue. So I know it's not very easy, particularly for people that have responsibility. So, but I mean, a lot of greatest companies that have been built, came out of, people taking risks like that. But I mean, one thing for sure is like, you need to have that conviction about what you're building, because there are definitely going to be like a lot of low moments, right? And, without that conviction, it might end up basically being a bad decision, right? If you, just jump in and, leave that security.
But how do you build that conviction? So like, say, okay, cool, I know this is a problem, let's say even in the payment space, like, okay, there's just in African payments, I always say payments are 1% built, because I think there's, 500 things to be built. I, as Benji or Nala, will never be able to build all of them. And so that's why we need more and more people are going to be tech entrepreneurs on the continent building all these different solutions that are needed, right? But how do you get to that point where you get enough conviction? What is enough conviction into knowing that I'm going to quit and do this? Because even at the beginning, the idea evolved so much, right? Like obviously maybe you wanted to do this, but then like as you started to learn from customers, you changed it so often. So what advice would you have for somebody in order to build conviction? What would you say are the best 2 things or 3 things to do in order to gain conviction?
Okay. So, I mean, like, I wouldn't say there are any like 2, 3 things required to build conviction. I feel like it's one of those things where, like, if you have it, you know, right? It's just like, falling in love with someone, or, how do you know that you're in love with someone? How do you know when you want to get married to someone? You just know, right? So, I mean, some people might say, oh, there are some steps, but I don't really believe in that. So I think with, the conviction of, starting a company, right, is one that you have to build, because, it's not just about the risk you're taking or whether it fails or succeeds. Is also about the other people that are going to be responsible for, like your employees, your customers, right? So you have a responsibility to, show up every day for these people. So you need to be sure, right? And I feel like if you don't know that you have that conviction, then you don't. So if you have it, you know. So that's what I think.
Understood. So how did you go from Quidax to Fincra?
Okay, that was quite an interesting journey. So, I mean, like Quidax definitely was where it all started. And I had a couple of interesting roles at Quidax, that allowed me to see things from like different perspectives. So as Quidax, as co-founder, I was heading product team, the business team, the customer success team, the treasury, and then I was also jointly heading operations team. I think that was about it. So I was basically in 5 teams as, a key stakeholder. Now, in 5 of those teams, I was solo in 3 of them. So I was the only product manager, I was the only support person, and I was the only person in sales and growth, right? So essentially, I could see the full scope of the business. And I realized that, lots of people that were buying and selling cryptocurrency back then were not just trading cryptocurrency for, big profits or whatnot, right? So we had majority of the people trading cryptocurrency because they needed to make cross-border payments, right? And they found it to be a seamless way, source of liquidity. So it was very interesting. Like I think over 70% of customers at the time were, trading cryptocurrency for payments and cross-border purposes. So I felt at the time that behavior needed to be enabled, right? That it was an opportunity. Africans are already taking to crypto for payments. So, at the point, considered trying to push like a crypto payment solution within Quidax, but, the focus was quite different. I mean, Quidax was really focused on, building that platform, that infrastructure for buying and selling. So, that's why I left and, founded FlickPay. Right. Obviously with support of my co-founders from Quidax. So I never was far away from them. So I started FlickPay at the time.
You started as a single founder?
Sorry?
Solo founder?
So when I started FlickPay, I had a co-founder, but left just before we transitioned into Fincra. So at FlickPay then, it was a crypto payments gateway, helping businesses accept payments through crypto. I mean, because we're trying to directly enable that. So we're on that journey, got into Techstars, But I think a year into it, I sort of realized that, that direction was not one I wanted to take, and, founded Fincra, as a separate company, and, just wound down the crypto payments solutions with FlickPay. So it was a rocky journey, because at the time, the Central Bank of Nigeria, came up with the policy, banning crypto. Yeah, so that was one of the things I also played into the decision to just wind that down.
Yeah. And so you started Fincra from then, right?
Yeah, a few months after.
Team? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you pulled a team, FlickPay. So Techstars, right? You are one of the only companies that I know who are building more recently in this new wave of new founders who, if we look statistically speaking, 2022, $1 billion was invested into fintech. $1 billion alone was invested into fintech just in Africa alone. And from that, a mere like 500 fintechs, raise money, right? In that sphere, in that phase of 2022. You guys are very unique in the sense that you raised from Techstars only $120,000 and haven't gone on to raise further funding from VC or institutional investors or so on. How did you go through that? Because today I think so many founders believe that if I don't raise a significant amount of money, my business is not going to succeed. But then today you are processing billions of dollars. You have 70 employees on payroll that you have to make sure you're getting salaries in for every single month. I believe you are profitable. Is that correct?
Yes, we're profitable.
Yeah, you are profitable as well. And so how do you get to that, from just 120K to building this, great business that what Fincra is today?
Okay. So to be honest, the ideology I'm building with, right, didn't just start from FlickPay or Fincra. So it was something that we sort of formed even right from the days of Quidax, right? So similar Quidax, Techstars, didn't also really raise any other money and, grew to a team of over 100 people. So what the ethos was, and always is that, we're building a business, and from the first day or from day zero, the plan has always been to be profitable, right? Not just to generate revenues. And in order to do that, in order for you to be profitable, you need to be making more than what you're spending, right? And you need to be sure that what you're building, people talk about product market fit, but we also look at revenue market fit, right? So, if a product is not making revenue or is not going to make revenue, there's no point building it, right? If you have product market fit, then customers should be willing to pay for your product, and getting to that point. Before you get to that point, you need to be able to manage your costs. So what we'd always do is so just giving an example of Quidax again. Like I said, when we started, all of the founders, none of us were getting paid. Right, none of us were getting paid. We're about 5 of us.
Yeah.
So that was 5 people working on building out the product. Just the 5 of us for the first few months, not getting paid. So we're not really thinking about raising. Our first hire was an intern. At that point, we already started making very little. So it was a case of before we make maybe any additional investments, whether it's into hiring or getting an office or doing whatever it is, we have to grow revenues to that point to be able to afford it, right? And I feel like that's intentionality on being profitable. Doesn't mean that you will eventually become profitable. A lot of business might not become profitable and fail, but it makes a difference if you go in knowing that you're trying to be profitable from day one, as opposed to going in feeling like the only way you can break even is by raising VC, spending insane on growth.
But I'm sure there was influence, right? So you went through Techstars and you're seeing all these different companies raise money. And you're in the Nigerian tech ecosystem, which is one of the largest across the African continent, where a lot of your peers, a lot of your customers today are also raising money. Was it never a thought, was why don't we just make this easier for us and just raise 500K or something like that in order to build out our office faster, hire more people faster, scale faster? How did you balance that decision-making point?
Okay. Yeah, there was definitely influence. So just after Techstars, I think we're done with our Techstars class in 2020 April. Yeah, 2020 April. I mean, that was when COVID started, lockdown. So we were actually we're going to raise about 600K. And then we started the process, fundraising, speaking to investors. At some point, started getting some commitments. But what I realized was that the process of raising was so tedious. And because we're a very small team, at the time, I think we're about 5. We're just about 5. We're a very small team, and I was, very integral to product, a bunch of portfolios within the company. So a lot of things were suffering because of the raise. And, this was the COVID year when lockdown started. So investors were not really writing checks, trying to see how the market was going to be. So it was like 2 months into the process. It was so super tedious, and we were able to hit revenue market fit. So we made some nice revenue at the end of the second month. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Right? With this money that we raised, with this money that we just made, this could, cover us 1 year or 18 months burn. That's in addition to the 120K, because we're spending so little. We're so frugal with how we're spending money, right? I mean, it's ridiculous how much we're spending every month. I can't even say it was so little. So with the amount of money we made as revenue, I think it was at the pace we're at, this was like 2-year runway. So I'm like, if I'm trying to raise here to scale my team and do that, do we really need that at the point? So I'm like, you know what, let me instead focus on trying to grow this revenue that I've started to see, as opposed to trying to raise the money. And so I just switched my focus, told all the VCs, even the ones that committed, we're not fundraising anymore. And, we just grew revenue month on month. And I think we're profitable. We're profitable as at our 8th month into the business. So just, grew from there. I mean, so profitable doesn't mean we're making millions of dollars, right? So maybe it could have been 5K, but just to ensure that we're making more than what we're spending. And we just, kept on trying to grow profits. And not just growing profits. One of the things that we look at, in fact, one of the most important numbers to us is our capital position, right? So it's one thing to grow profits. Then it's another thing of, of all the profits you're growing, how much cash do you have that belongs to the company? So every day, that's something I look at today, growing the capital position, growing the capital base, that's the bottom line for every business, whether you're a startup or a bank or traditional business. So
how do you deal with float management? For example, today you're moving billions of dollars, right? If you only raised 120K, were you striking deals with banks that would pre-fund you float or things like that? How did you manage? Because it's not easy to move $1 billion, but how did you get to that position you're doing that today?
Well, we never took any debts from a bank, and I don't think there's any special partnership that we've had. It's actually an interesting question how we've done it without floats. I don't think we've not really struggled for liquidity and moving money. So I guess, it's just based on how we, it's still part of the ethos, right? So one of the things I see that founders do a lot, particularly startup founders, is, stuff like, selling your products for free. And these are products that you're paying for, free. I think free doesn't work, right? If you're building a product, you have to charge money for it. You have to make money for it. Or doing stuff like maybe giving instant settlements when you're not getting settled instantly. Right, so we wouldn't do that as a business, because if you're doing that, then it means you need to get floats from somewhere. So you're either taking debts or you need capital to do stuff like that. But for us, is if we're getting settled instantly, we can settle you instantly. If we're getting settled T+1, we settle you T+1. So based on that, we just manage our floats from what we have in our accounts. We've never really had to do anything super special at this point in managing the business.
How do you manage treasury? It's an art I think you have done better than many companies across the continent, where you operate in 5 countries across Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Ghana, Zambia, Nigeria, and Treasury, because if you look at Africa, look at the African continent, there's a massive dollar shortage. So therefore, in many countries, the bid versus mid-ask rate is very different, can range or flex up to 4%. In markets like Nigeria, you have the black market rate for Naira, but you also have the central bank rate for Naira as well. Huge difference in between, right? How do you manage treasury as you're building these markets where there's so much volatility around currency risk?
Okay, so I'd say that's like one of our core strengths as a business, our treasury management, and how we've been able to hack it really is by understanding like incentives of all the players in the markets, right? So who is generating the liquidity, who are the takers in the markets, right? And how can you get them together, right? And also maybe source from these partners. So we have so many trading partners, right? Banks, PSPs, aggregators, a lot of them, exporters. So it's basically just balancing all of them, and it's not easy, and of course there have been challenges, as you can imagine, right? You can have a situation where I'll give an example. So say you are balancing treasury between GBP and GHS, right? So there was a time when the pounds was losing against the dollar, and CDs was losing against every currency. That was like
last year, 2022. Towards the end,
So there was a period where there was like a 5 to 10% devaluation within 2 weeks on CDs, and about 2 to 3% devaluation on pounds. And we had position in pounds and CDs. So it's like, where do you stay? If you're on GBP, it's falling. If you're on GHS, it's falling. So there are times when it's so really difficult hard to manage. But I think our treasury is like one of the strongest parts of our business.
Today, you guys enable businesses to collect and make payments, but you also offer other services like treasury functions. What else is coming this year that you're looking forward to be building, or that you'd like to share with people listening?
Okay, so a lot of people, and that's like that. One of the things that we're trying to do better now is to make all the products that we're building to be more obvious, right? So a lot of people just see us, for sending money or virtual accounts, but we are an offline and online payments infrastructure company. So what that means is we play heavily in the agency banking space, right? So we enable super agents, commercial banks, and other operators to run and manage their agent networks through our white label platform and APIs. We also help merchants accept offline payments through POS terminals, through transfer and the likes. Then we also issue bank accounts, Naira accounts, USD accounts, GBP, Euro for individuals and also for businesses. We offer other value-added services like airtime, bills payments via our API. Of course, we do money transfer across Africa, UK, Europe, China, North America. And I would say one of the new products that will be launching soon will be our virtual card issuance, because card payments, dollar payments is still a great thing in Nigeria and some other countries in Africa. So in the next couple of weeks, months, we'll be launching our card issuance APIs for businesses.
Nice. If you look at the African continent, there are so many payment aggregators and people who do very similar things to you guys. What do you say you guys do better than most people?
Okay, one of the key things I would say is our strength. In terms of our offering compared to our competitors, I would say our treasury. So our treasury is one of our core strengths, and that really helps us, in terms of dealing with these businesses. Another thing would be our attention to our customers, right? So I would say we are a very customer-centric entity. Our roadmap is largely dependent on our customers. So the way we prioritize stuff on our roadmap is number one, for customer experience. Number two, for customer pain points. So if there's any bug, any complaints on customer, it automatically goes up. So the last thing that we have in our roadmap is new features, right? So new features are actually the lowest priority because, I mean, if you have customers already transacting with you, making the experience better or solving their problems is always more important than what, you know, you're trying to achieve. And I feel like a lot of our customers really appreciate us for that because they can see that very clearly that they are the ones driving our roadmap. We also offer dedicated support to virtually all of our customers, right? So they basically work with our team like it's their team. So we create, you know, Slack channels, Skype channels for most of our merchants where they can engage with, you know, our engineers, you know, relationship manager, technical account managers, sometimes also with, you know, our settlement team, depending on the merchants category. And, you know, that gives them that feeling that, you know, they can always speak to Fincra at any time. And, you know, I'm also very strongly customer facing. So almost all of my customers, you know, call me, text me every day. And I feel like that also makes a difference for our customers.
This is true. We are a customer as Nala for Fincra. I call Wole often and I bother him. Primarily, I ask him to take me out to lunch, but I need to try. You know, I was told because you operate in Ghana and Nigeria, I was told that the Ghanaian jollof is better than Nigerian jollof, but you know, I have to.
No way.
Let's talk about some personal elements of building. What was one of the most difficult moments for you when building Fincra?
Well, while building Fincra, I've not really reflected on that before now. So I've had some difficult moments. The most difficult, I'm not sure, but I mean, one of the like more, you know, difficult experiences have been like maybe dealing with fraud, managing fraud issues, right? I mean, if you're doing fintech, you know, fraud is something that you have to, you know, deal with a lot, you know, particularly on the infrastructure side. So managing some of those fraud issues, you know, having to engage with law enforcement, with regulators, with customers, trying to recover stuff, you know, has been very difficult in the times we've had that. Then also losing some particular people. You know, there are maybe one or two staff exits that we've had that's, you know, been very, you know, tough for me. So, I mean, like one of the things that a lot of fintechs have or startups struggled with, maybe particularly from 2022, has been like the great exits, more so for Nigerian businesses, right? So the macroeconomic condition makes it such that, you know, most Nigerian youth, a lot of Nigerian youth don't want to, you know, be in Nigeria anymore. They don't want to work in Nigeria. So everyone is trying to jackpot
Seen that,
as such. So so there's one or two people that left that was, you know, really, really tough for me, you know, struggling to see how could really replace them. And some we've really struggled to replace. But so yeah, I think those would be the tough moments. But other than that, you know, I'm very grateful to God. So far, we've had more ups than downs.
When somebody you trusted, who's working really close to you and reporting to you, decides to leave, how do you navigate that?
So it's become easier for me to navigate that now because, you know, I've had a few of those. Early on.
Do you ever feel betrayed when that happens?
I used to feel betrayed early on, you know, take it very personal, you know, try to convince them, you know, eventually feel sad. You know, all of those feelings, sadness, betrayal. But, I mean, after like a few months or weeks, right, you know, I come to realize that, you know, sometimes like leaving might not necessarily be the end of the road. There's still something that could happen in the future. And then like, it's life. It's life. Like people leave. So like right now, I'm a lot more adjusted to the idea that people leave. Anyone can leave. Right. So I would say maybe I've built some kind of muscle to deal with that. Also, on the other end, right, you know, we've been seeing all the layoffs that have been happening in tech industry in general. Same way, like, your employees will see it. So yeah, you might be sad about your employee leaving, but when it comes down to it, if you have to let someone go, you would also let them go, and they would also be sad about leaving, right? So it's those relationship employer-employee, at the end of the day, is based on a contract, right? So even though those emotions can get into it, I feel like you'll be better if you don't attach so much emotions to it. Well, it used to be very tough for me. Like one of my toughest moments was one of my dear employees leaving sometime last year. But I think I'm much adjusted to people leaving now.
How do you cope with these things as a founder? Like, being a founder, a solo founder, can be very lonely. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, sometimes it does feel lonely. Although I have like lots of people that I get advice from, that I can still speak to within my team. Strong advisors, some of the directors in my company. So I have people that I can still rely on those moments. My wife. But in general, like now, when I have challenges at work, I just try not to focus so much on the challenge, but identify like a way for the solution, and just completely throw myself into it. So I wouldn't now maybe just sit down and be sad like, oh, this happened. Sometimes it gets to you, but I try not to focus on those challenges. One thing I've also come to learn is that challenges is like a very big part of the job, right? A very big part of building a successful company is by having big problems, and the bigger you grow, the bigger the problems you would face. And so you just have to protect your heart, protect your your mind, to just ensure that everything is okay. And at some point I started speaking to someone professionally as well, to deal with all of the stress.
This is a coach or a therapist?
Both.
So you speak to them monthly or weekly, or?
So not anymore now, but at the peak of it used to be weekly.
How does your wife feel about everything that you're doing and the amount of stress it brings you?
She's the most supportive person on my journey. She's a very critical part of the journey, involved in a lot of decisions that I make. Initially, it used to be very tough because, I used to work I used to work for about 15 to 18 hours a day at the very early stage. I mean, maybe now I work 15, 16 hours a day. So that would mean like, wake up and, start working from 8 a.m. to 12 a.m., 1 a.m. every day. And, sometimes those kind of things like, put a strain. It's difficult to understand why your partner is always so busy, not available. Even when I got married on my wedding day, I worked on that day. So I did not go on leave. There was no honeymoon. I know we're still going to have the honeymoon. Stephanie, if you're listening to this, the honeymoon is still going to happen. But, I worked on that day. I worked the entire weekend. I think I got married on a Thursday, worked that day, worked on Friday. The entire weekend I was back to the office on Monday. But I mean, now she has come to understand, and I've also come to find ways to better balance, my work and, also my marriage. But I think understanding is like at the heart of it.
You said your wife has been extremely supportive to you in your business and one of the most supportive people in your life. If she was in this room right now, what would you tell her?
I'll tell her thank you and I love you very much for all the supports.
Amazing. As you look at the journey and tough moments that you've been at, that you guys have done quite a lot as a business and grown into many different aspects, expanding to many countries across the continent. As you said, the bigger you get, the bigger problems you face. when a central bank calls you and says, Wole, we want you in the office next week, today, how do you deal with that now versus how you used to deal with that previously?
So previously I used to panic with, those kind of things, regulators, all of that. But, now we just face it because, maybe, the earlier days panicking because not really having experience with managing stuff like that. But, now it's a lot easier. We have like relationships, with a lot of the regulators. We have experience managing them, and just because we know that we're not really doing anything wrong, and we're pretty sure of all our processes, so there's more confidence even when these issues come up, right? So we interface with different regulators, almost on a weekly basis, right? For different reasons, but it's something that we're not so scared of anymore.
If you were to close your eyes and start all over again today building Fincra, what are 2 things you do differently? Okay.
So number 1, I'll be more intentional about our hiring process, right? So, I'll be more intentional about our hiring process. Then number 2, I think that'll be it because, that's encompasses everything. So it's just about the people. We have great people, right? We have very great people working with the team. But, there are certain roles, that maybe we might have hired earlier, like maybe like with sales, having more people in sales. So, that's one of the interesting things at Fincra. We have very few salespeople, but we've been able to achieve a lot. So definitely, if I could start again, I'll hire more salespeople earlier, and just be more intentional about the process, the people.
Do you have any regrets in your Fincra journey?
No regrets.
How do you deal with, I wish I knew this 3 years ago?
So we haven't really had a lot of those moments yet. So maybe at some point we might have it, but like starting Fincra, there was like we had a very good knowledge of the markets. We had very good knowledge of the products, the customers, the problems. So I would say we knew like basically everything that we had to do. But definitely I would say in execution, we could have executed on a lot of things better, right? So we've grown quite big, but we could have been a lot bigger if we executed on some certain things faster or better. But every day is about learning, improvements, growing, and we're a young company, and one of the benefits of not really raising from VCs or institutional capital is that we get to learn at our own pace, and the pressure to grow is not as much as maybe what a VC-funded company would be. So now that's not to say we're not trying to grow or we're trying to, just chill. But, if we're able to cover our costs, and still remain in profits, that allows us to have like a more long-term approach to everything that we're doing. So we could do this for the next 10 years. We could do this for the next 20, 30 years. We could think about it and, make plans and follow through. So, yeah.
What does exit look like for you? Do you, is it IPO? Is it acquisition? Is it you want to be at Fincra for the rest of your life? What does that mean for you?
To be honest, I'm not so sure. My goal
You got to take your wife on honeymoon at some point, right? So she's waiting hey, man, look, I've done this no salary thing for a long time now. So what's when? Yeah.
Okay. So little secrets. So I'm getting married again I think in 2 years. So when we hit 5 years, we're going to do another wedding.
Right? Is that the one I'm going to get invited to? Because I wasn't invited to the last one.
No, so the last one was crazy. I only had 12 people at my wedding. There was no party, just cause. But this one is going to be a big wedding. But and yes, definitely it'll be honeymoon. But my wife and I actually spend a lot of time together. We travel a lot together. We travel a lot together. But exits, I don't really think so much about exit. I think about profits. I think about making more money. I think about paying my employees better. I think about getting bigger bonuses. So exits for, founders is about liquidity, right? Liquidity from the exit or maybe doing something different. So for us at Fincra, we have a vision that we're building towards, just like you said, payments is 1% built in Africa. So there's a lot of ground to cover, right? And, as long as we're getting the cash, getting, paid well, being able to live very good life, exits is not something that's, is at the top of my mind.
You talk about team and team being very important, right? In this world of significant VC funding that happened in 2021, 2022, was like kind of an adjustment period. 2023 is a full correction period that's kicking off now, and we're going to see a lot of adjustments happening. How do you see yourself retaining employees when maybe a lot of them consistently are getting offers from competitors here, left, right, and center, and those competitors have VC-backed money that maybe you don't have today, right? And how do you see yourself building that culture of like, hey, look, I know they can pay you significantly more, but like, here's why this is really important for us to have you on the team. How do you, balance those two things out?
Okay, so medium to long-term strategy in terms of retention, is really tied to our revenue, right? So one of my biggest motivations in wanting to make a lot more money and make more profits is so we can pay our people better, right? So I've always told my team, I see a future, which can be now, depending on how we perform. I see a future where we'll be able to pay competitively with, against any VC-backed company or even a US company or a UK company, right? So I see a point where we're able to, afford to pay at that level, right? And even at the level we're at now, I think our pay is quite competitive compared to the Nigerian markets. So even compared to a lot of the VC-funded companies, we always try to pay bonuses to our employees every year, sometimes twice a year. I think most, if not all, of our employees also have some stock options within the company. We've come up with so many policies like, workstation financing, vehicle financing, interest-free loans. So there are different perks that we try to come up with. Like, we're 100% a remote company. So that also helps with retention, where everyone can work from home or from wherever. Even relocation policy, right? So at the point where it seemed like everyone was trying to move, so we took a proactive approach of creating a relocation policy where staff that want to maybe move out of Nigeria or move to another country.
Japa.
Yeah, to Japa. We actually help them with the process.
You help them Japa.
Yeah, we help them Japa.
It's the Japa policy at Fincra.
Yeah, we do have one, and a bunch of people are in the process of taking on that policy. Actually, a few people have leveraged that policy. So we even give loans for them to set up wherever it is they're going. But of course, we expect them to repay the loan and to repay the fee by staying with us. But that again puts us under pressure, because definitely if someone maybe moves to maybe the UK or the US, we have to start thinking about the competitiveness of the salary based on the cost of living. So that's why we have to make more money. That's one of the major reasons. We have to make more money.
So Wole, I've seen your tweets here and there. It seems like there's two things that are really important to you. One is Manchester City, which we'll discuss, which is a mistake. And then the second one is your faith. Is faith important to you, and why?
Oh yeah, very, very important. I'm a strong Christian. I grew up a Christian, but these days I try to be more, more vocal about it, more intentional. And we always say in my church, the purpose for why we're created as humans is to know God and to make Him known, to people. So I just always have to talk about it as often as I can.
Is that tough for you sometimes at work?
Not really. Not really. I think my people are used to it. But one of the things I want to start doing is inviting people to church.
Cool. Well, I guess when I come to Lagos, you're going to take me to your church then.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Now, what are you looking forward to most this year?
Okay. This year, I'm on a personal basis. I'm looking forward to being able to, operate more like strategically, right? So at work, I still sort of find myself all over the place, right, here and there. So this year I'm trying to basically establish like a sense of calm in our operations, right, where everything works smoothly without people having to just be all over the place, right? That's one of the key things I'm working on. So that's like operational excellence. Another thing I'm looking forward to this year is, making a lot of money, and I want us to make a lot of money this year. I feel like there's so many opportunities this year, and it's still early in the year. We're still in Q1, and with the right execution, I believe that we're going to hit our goals for the year. So our revenue goals is something I think about every day. Looking forward to that.
Nice. Cool. I have a quick fire round of questions. Before that, I have one of the questions I ask everybody in the show.
Okay.
What matters to you most in life and why?
What's matter to me most in life? I would say family, right? And family. So family in this context is not necessarily always like blood family. So family and friends are like family, right? Because whatever it is, all the highs and the lows, without family, like it doesn't mean anything. Like if I make all the money in the world and I don't have family, I don't have a wife, I don't have friends, I don't have siblings, I don't have parents, there's literally no joy in life without family. So I think that's what matters most to me.
It's family. Okay. Now we have a quick fire round of questions. Really important questions that we need to resolve today. Okay. All right. Important one. Ronaldo or Messi?
I used to say Ronaldo, but Messi is really better. But I love Ronaldo.
Wow. I think we should just end this show right there because then kick this guy out of the office.
I used to be the biggest Ronaldo fan, but Messi is watch football with your eyes. It's very obvious.
You can't talk about watching. You support Manchester City. You tell me you watch football with the eyes. Like everybody who supports Manchester City started supporting them in the last 3-4 years.
No, I started supporting Man City in 2009.
Yeah, after the big funding came through. It says the guy who doesn't take VC funding and now is supporting the team with the most funding.
I'm seeing all United fans clamoring for the Qatar investments. Qatar, come and buy United, So I used to be a United fan, actually.
You used to be a United fan and now you're a Manchester City fan.
Yeah.
This is a big problem. We got to solve this at Fincra.
So I stopped supporting Man United when Ronaldo went to Madrid. And then Man U was playing dross football. Even though, they were winning the leagues, I never really liked the Fergie football style. So I believe I saw the future. I knew Man City was going to be successful.
He said he saw the future,
yeah,
but you still haven't won any Champions Leagues as well. We'll park that for the...
It will come. Maybe this year.
He's been saying that for the last 10 years. So.
Maybe this year.
He says this year's our year. All right, other quick fire round. Davido or Wizkid?
Wizkid is the greatest.
Wizkid's the greatest. Yeah. Bigger than Burna Boy for you.
Wizkid is the greatest.
There's no comparison.
Burna Boy is trying, but Wizkid is the big fish.
The big fish.
Yes, Ejanla.
Yeah,
Machala.
Machala.
Yeah, that's Wizkid all day.
Yeah. You've been spending more time in East Africa. Have you explored the East African music scene?
Not so much, because everywhere I go, they play Nigerian music. Everywhere
this
I
is
go.
it's the confidence for me. Can you imagine?
Everywhere I go,
Nigerian music.
Nigerian music or Amapiano.
Okay, there's no East African music.
I very little. So there's this song.
Yeah.
Sawa Sawa It's one Sawa Sawa song. I really like the song.
Okay.
That's like the only
East African song.
Yeah. I mean, there's some South to Soul, but
yeah. Man, he didn't even say it. He didn't even mention diamond platinums, but it's okay. We'll leave it at that. We'll park. It's fine. All right. So, given you're from Nigeria, why do you spend so much time apart from business? Why are you spending so much time in East Africa? I
really love Nairobi so much. The people, the city. Yeah. Everywhere is beautiful. It's what is like for me. It's like what a perfect Lagos could look like. Things work. People are nice. There's some traffic, but it's very manageable, very predictable.
Not as much as Lagos.
No, I mean Lagos is one of the worst out there in the world with that. So, yeah, I really love Nairobi, and every time I come, the experience is always like, so delightful. And then there's so much emphasis on nature here. So even when you're around, just driving around, you get to interact with nature more here. And when you think about it, in Kenya, there's so many beautiful places. Diani. And
yo, man, this guy said Diani to a guy from Tanzania who has Zanzibar.
No, so you know what? When I wanted to go to the coastal area, so I was thinking Diani, Zanzibar, or what's this other popular one?
Mafia Island or Lamu?
No, Kunda, along the coastline. What's the popular?
Maldives?
No, in Kenya.
I don't know.
Mombasa.
Bro, this guy said Mombasa. You could go to Dar es Salaam instead of Mombasa, bro.
So I was thinking about it, and then my tour guide told me that Diani has the best beach in Africa.
Wow. Yo, that tour guide is not...
No, she actually showed me proof. She told me that for 7 straight years, there's this company that does the rating, and Diani has been winning, the best beach in Africa.
Yo, you guys who are watching this, tell me in the comments, Diani or Zanzibar. This guy, look at these false claims about Diani being the best beaches in Africa. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, I went there and I had one of the most...
Have you been to Zanzibar yet?
Not yet.
Yeah, see, that's come on, man.
I'll do Zanzibar soon. But before then, I want to do like a tour of the Kenyan coast, Watamu, all of them. So
maybe that's the honeymoon tour you'll be doing with your
wife.
Yeah,
maybe just go to all the coastal cities along that.
Right. Food is a really important part of East African culture. So what do you prefer? East African biryani or jollof rice?
Jollof rice.
Have you tried proper East African biryani?
Yes, I do. I have, and I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I like biryani.
Yeah.
But, I feel like West Africa will have the best food in the world.
Wow, it's the confidence for me, man.
Yeah.
I thought I saw you eating Indian food the other day, but, we'll let that one slide. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Wole here with us today on the Build Our Africa Speaker Series. It's really inspiring to hear his journey from starting the company from 0 people all the way to over 70 people operating across 5 countries in Africa and many more to come, with new products enabling businesses to collect money as well as make payouts. And now with card issuing services coming very soon, very grateful for you to be here, processing billions of dollars across the African continent. It's really inspiring. And thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Where can people find and learn more about Fincra?
Fincra.com, our website, and then our social media, Fincra HQ, on Twitter, on Instagram, LinkedIn, Fincra. So just reach out to us, sign up, and let's power your payments.
Yeah, let's make payments happen. Payments to 1% build. There's so much more to come, and you're working towards it. Thank you. Cheers.